Let me talk about my experience in Nepal. We were actually trying to amend the 11th Women's Rights Bill that was in 2000, and two of the main issues there was equal property rights of women, and the other was reproductive rights of women. It was not only the men who were against this, it was also the women against this, because they have been socialized to accept that since they go to their husband's home and they get their husband's share of the property, which in practice they do not, but because that is a general thinking, it is very difficult to forge alliances, not so much among the civil society, but among the women legislators themselves. But the women from different political parties also were not willing to come together. We wanted to have a 13th Committee on Gender Equality in the Parliament, and in order to achieve that we wanted to have a women's caucus in the Parliament, but none of these women would come together because they belong to different political parties who do not share the same values on women's rights. So I think that stands out the most as being significant in not being able to forge alliances. But of course, eventually we did get through. I think it has also been possible because of years and years of advocacy on women's rights, women's equal representation, and there have been several groups that have come together. It is not just one alliance, but several alliances. For example, if we're talking of women's citizenship rights, there was an alliance of many NGOs like ABC, FWLD, OREC, and many such, and where other organizations also joined in spontaneously, and that is where we got at least the Constitution to say that the Constitution will not discriminate between men and women with regards to citizenship. But still there is a discrimination where men can pass on their citizenship through descent, whereas women, if they're married to a foreigner, they can pass on citizenship to their children only through by naturalization. We now have 33% affirmative actions for women across all structures, across all sectors, and in local governance we have 40% affirmative action. And this has also come about because of the Alliance for Women's Political Empowerment. Then there are other groups also who have been working on women, peace and security. As a result of these organic growths of network, we have been able to proudly say that today the new Constitution 2015 has one of its principles as gender equality. That is true, because of patriarchy, the traditional and harmful practices, harmful cultural practices like chaupadi, exclusion while you are menstruating, is one of the worst forms of harmful traditional practices, where a woman is not seen, or a girl is not seen as a human being but as a commodity. And then there are many other accompanying practices around menstruation that really kind of subjugate and suppress girls and women, and later then they grow up not to value themselves at all. So the devaluation starts, right from being born, and it never ends. Today we have a very strategic opening in that the three tiers of governance, from the federal to the provincial and to the local governments, now there are, at least in the local governments, there are 40% women, elected women officials who are now part of this governance structure, and that forms a very, very formidable alliance. So if all these elected women, with the help of the civil society, with the help of like-minded organizations, both nationally, regionally and internationally, if we can forge an alliance, the days of exclusion, of subjugating women and girls will not be long. But for that, we still need to capacitate the locally elected women officials who truly understand what women's empowerment is, what gender equality means, and how to achieve social inclusion. So it's not only, again, capacity building. They also need to have structures that can support them in the form of mentoring and coaching, and also then boosting their morale. So it is also about transforming gender relations in the way these elected women officials relate with elected men officials, who are the chiefs, who are the mayors, as most of these women are now deputy mayors or vice chairs of municipalities. It's also about making these structures egalitarian, which in terms of amending or bringing about new laws, in terms of transforming the processes, because institutions are also sites of discrimination and inequality. And it's also about strengthening these women's agencies, their skills, their knowledge, their voice. So if we are able to work simultaneously at the level of structure, at the level of agency, at the level of relations, we'd be able to forge these alliances both within and without, to really have, as we say, an egalitarian society in the idealistic term at the most.